Most people are stuck in a system designed to work harder and not smarter. We're here to expose the strategies, the loopholes and the life hacks the 1% use. This is universal basic knowledge.
My name is Dan Nevias, and I've taken millions of dollars in flights and spent next to nothing. You've probably heard a ton of different travel hacks and tips here and there from guys like the Point Hacks and so on and so forth. I've tried them all, and here's some of my favorite that you've probably never heard of. So I've been traveling ever since I was a baby, back and forth from the United States and South America, because I was born in Brazil, but I grew up in Indiana. So two very drastic places and a lot of flights in between. I would always go between these two countries. I was a kid and then I became a teenager. I would always notice that, my family, we'd always travel coach, and I'd see all these people sitting in these really nice seats up there. And I'm like, Dad, why can't we travel on these seats? And he would give me when you can pay for that. There was one time that my dad got a free upgrade. I can't remember what exactly happened, but he gave it to me. So I was traveling first class, international, just me. I'm super pumped. I'm trying to talk to everyone, right? And I just want to be like, hey, how are you? Yeah, I do this. I think I just started a business. So I think I was actually 15 and I was doing like a little eBay hustle that I had. Anyways, ever since that period of time, I always thought to myself, I need to figure out how to hack travel. I've always been inspired by this category because, you see different cultures, you get access to different people. In some cases, it helped me also raise millions of dollars for my business, because if I knew that an investor wanted to meet, I would just be like, oh, I was planning on being in your city anyways. And then it led to something which led to something else. So anyways, travel is expensive. If you're doing it the normal way, you go to the site, even if you're using Expedia or hotels.com or whatever you're doing, it's generally pretty expensive. And a lot of people have figured out that point hacking, right, by signing up for credit cards and getting these point offers, is the cheapest way to be able to travel first class and enjoy it. And that's true. Those things do work quite well. I still use a lot of point hacking, but there are a few things that people do not tell you about, or generally I haven't seen a lot of people tell you about, and these are some of my favorites. People don't often know this, but one of the things that's most difficult to get is what we call a status upgrade, right? So basically, United and American, they have different levels, right? There's silver, there's gold, there's, 1K, then there's something called global services. That's like the best. So the invite only on United, for example. But every airline has these statuses. One of the things that I realized is that there are tools, there are programs online that cost a couple $100 that will give you a status challenge. And what essentially that means is that for a period of a few months, you will have a certain level on the airline. And so in this case, you can spend, I think, about $400. There's a company called Basis Travel, and you can basically go there, spend $400, and essentially you will get access to 1K. I'm not getting paid by, Basis Travel. I'm not getting any affiliate commissions here, but this is the type of stuff that, is interesting and you should know. And basically what that means is that for those 4 months, you will be a 1K member of United. So in many cases, you can buy an economy flight and then get upgraded. And as long as you're not going on a super hyper competitive route like LA to New York or Chicago to LA, you will likely get upgraded in first class. Internationally, you can also buy an economy ticket and then get a higher likelihood to get the first class upgrade or the business class upgrade if you have 1K status, especially with your plus points. So the idea is that you can do this for United, you can do this for Delta. And many people don't take advantage of statuses because status is how you get to the next level. But silver, gold, you're never gonna get really anything there. Maybe you'll get some emergency exit seats, but you're not gonna get that first class ticket. You're not going to get that next level. And so something I would recommend, it costs $400. You go to Basis Travel, you get this upgrade, and you can do this a few times a year. The only downside that I will say about this is that it's one per account every 5 years. So essentially, if you don't hit the status challenge after those first 4 months, what you'll ultimately have to do is create a new United account. And then essentially you'll get the status challenge on that account. And so that is a little hassle, but is something that is worthwhile and could save you a lot of money, especially if you plan this really appropriately. Say you're going to Italy this summer, right? You want to go to Italy, you don't want to pay business class seats, a few $1,000s. You can do a status challenge, get the 1K, get the perks and benefits, and then you will likely get that 4K ticket for maybe, $1,200 or something like that. Another one, also with United, that's really interesting. No one ever sees this one. And this one is, I think, more sustainable long-term. United, for example's upgrade system works is with something called plus points. These are basically little points that you get. You buy them and you can get little upgrades. On eBay, you can actually buy plus points from members that are R1K or global services. So again, global services is an invite only. It's like, think about the black card of Amex. It's an invite only program, very hard to get to, and you are at the very top of the list. But on eBay, what I can do is I can go to eBay, look up plus points, global services, and essentially I could buy 40 plus points, which is what you need for a one-way overseas, for about $800, right? And sometimes you can get it for less. And so as an example, if I go look for a one-way to Japan right now, it might be $3,000, $4,000 for that one ticket. But on economy, it might only be $800, right? And so what I can go is go on eBay, buy the plus points. And what this means is that there's some person that is a United member that has excess points. They're not going to use it for some reason. And what they're going to do is they're going to take your ticket number and give you their upgrade. So now your global services, just for this flight, you are essentially an extended global services member, even though you bought some economy ticket, and you get that upgrade. So your total cost here is $1,600 versus the $4,000 to get that, and you get the global services treatment, which is really nice. And so you're only doing that on eBay for that one flight, but this is a way that I've constantly used to upgrade my flights if I absolutely need to, while spending, 45, 50% less than you're going to in a normal circumstance. So another one that I like a lot and again, this really depends on your lifestyle, but basically there's something called an all around the world ticket. Essentially what the around the world ticket is, it goes through Aeromexico, I believe. And Aeromexico is a partner of Amex, right? And basically you can transfer, I believe, 200-some thousand points on American Express to Aeromexico. And it happens one time a year for about a month. And I remember mine, I think, was in around February. So you got to look at this at the very beginning of the year. Google it every year it comes out. And what you essentially do is you get something called an around the world ticket. And this around the world ticket essentially means that you can start saying, anywhere in the world that the partner airlines of Aeromexico do. But what you can do is you can fly within 1 year, you have to use this around the world pass. And you basically get I think it was 16 or 18 different destinations in business class. So say I start in Chicago, I can go to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, I can go to Japan. Then Japan, I can go to China. China, I can go to India. India, I go to Dubai. Dubai, I can go to Europe. You get the picture. You can never go back the other direction, but you can always go east to west, west to east. That's one of the things that you do. But if you think about the thesis behind this, 2,000 points on American Express, because this is one of the people's biggest errors with points. They think that they understand the point game, but what they do is they take their Amex points and then they use it in the travel portal. And so if you are familiar with Amex, this is your biggest thing to not do. Do not use your points to pay for one night of a hotel. Do not use your points to pay for the cash value of an airline. Always transfer your point to the appropriate airlines for programs such as this, right? Because the point to dollar ratio that you'll get instead of being 1-to-1 will be 1 to 25, right? And so if you think about what you're gonna get here with an all around the world pass, is you're gonna get 16 or so first class flights. And so if you attribute the value of what 16 first class flights look like, it could be, call it $4,000 each one times 16. We're talking about $100,000 nearly in flights that you're going to get for 200,000 points, which in a normal circumstance, if you were to use that for just hotel nights or points, is $2,000. So you're paying 2,000 to get 100,000. So see, that's like a 50x, And so mathematically, even if you don't do the around the world pass, these things exist for why you should use Amex points in this specific way. But the around the world pass, if you want to take a gap year, if you're in your retirement age and you want to take a year around the world, you have 1 year to use it. So how I know to even optimize it further is that you can basically go from, say, Chicago to Japan, and then you stay there for, say, 4 or 5 months, as far as the airline things. And then you could buy on another airline, like say United, and you use our eBay hack to go back to the United States. And then you go back again 5 months later and you continue around the world, right? So if you use it strategically, you could actually get way more flights out of it so that it basically gets a few other trips out of the way, right? And so basically that's the idea of one that I really like. I've never been able to take advantage of it, but I have an around the world ticket waiting for one day when I have the time to do it. But it was such a good deal and it was such an exciting thing that you should definitely look into it and do it if your life is available for you to do. So these are all some flight hacks that I felt that I don't see very often. And what we'll be doing is also diving this in for hotels, for cars, car rental, for any type of travel activities. I wanted to come up with something that we hadn't really seen very often here, that I feel like a lot of people don't know about. And hopefully you found that valuable. And if you want, you can join our community. And we'll dive deeper into a lot of these topics for free. And so if this is interesting for you, feel free to join our free community. You're going to get a bunch of tools and tips and other ways to optimize your life and live like that 1%.